anything that comes in on the chat, I will respond to at some point, probably as we get towards the end. Guys, basically making progress, nutrition training considerations. We've spoke about this. Apologies if there's any spelling mistakes. I've just finished putting this together now. But it's because it's based on a lot of the questions that have come in on the check-in. We've actually reordered things a little bit to what we were going to do to make sure that you guys have got the stuff that you need. So things that we're going to cover. What type of progress we need to be looking at, because I know that a lot of people are going to be making different levels of progress. Some people are going to be wanting to build muscle. Some people are just going to want to keep the fitness. Some people obviously wanting complete body transformations. All absolutely fine. But there's something that we need to know before that, and it's what point you're starting at. Because there are certain things that we need to prioritize above weight loss and prioritize above muscle building, because what they do is not only the key to general health, but they also set up to you being able to lose weight, build muscle, get fitter, perform better, and all of that. So we need to be really aware of what you've been doing recently, what the trends are looking like, what the bigger picture is, and then making a decision based on what the next couple of weeks are going to hold for you, what we can realistically expect, and where your focus needs to be based on that. We're looking at energy systems, mega basic. Honestly, I'm gonna breeze through that, but I think it's important to talk about, because when we talk about energy systems, what I've tried to do is make it really apparent that this is directly related to your nutrition as well. So different types of training, different types of nutrition are going to have an impact on recovery. They're going to have an impact on all areas. And basically, this is a reason why you can absolutely batter yourself over and over and over and still not seem to lose fat from the areas that you want to lose it from, and still not seem to really get any results, and be dieting really hard and sort of plateauing all the time. So regardless of how much training you do, how much dieting you're doing, if you're feeling like you're not getting somewhere, it directly comes down to this. So mega important.
Just let me jump in, because what I want to make sure that people are aware is that we are now on webinar week 3. So if what we decided with this course is that we wasn't going to keep going over the same things. So we've already spoke about mindset, motivation, about setting goals and things like that. So just to make a note of this is that we will be talking about this in relation a little bit further to our other two, because obviously we have got other things going on at the minute. We have got different things that are impacting our stress. We've got different things that have sort of been thrown in the, all over. But what we're trying to do with these webinars is keep them specific to the topic. So the week 1 webinar was about creating clarity, focus, setting some key goals and understanding where we're at. That did include if we wanted to lose fat, if we wanted to, maintain sort of mental health and whatever it were that we was doing. Then we had week 2, which was about motivation and mindset. We also spoke quite a lot about stress and things like that, and how at the minute it's impacting us. But this week we're going to be discussing nutrition as a whole, as in general, on the back of what we've already discussed. So if there's questions that arise that you might think, yeah, but that don't relate to me, or yeah, but that's not me, or yeah, but that is different for me because, then I'd suggest that, just make notes on whatever it is that you're thinking. Get a pen and paper. These webinars are supposed to be learning tools. Get a pen and paper. Take notes. See if we answered a question during the webinar. If not, see if we've answered it in the other ones. If you haven't already watched them, go back, watch them, because you may be able to answer questions today that arise in previous webinars. I'm not trying to say don't ask us questions. Please make sure you ask the questions today. But I'm just saying that if you're watching this on replay, don't jump straight into the nutrition one without watching, because they will be on replay. Don't jump straight into nutrition without watching the other 2 webinars as well, because they are pretty essential really to start this process with us, aren't they, Jeff?
Yeah, not only the webinar, but week 3 this week with this webinar. Obviously, this is the one where we directly answering your questions, having a bit of a discussion. So the webinars are always more specific. For the general education, that's going to be dropped in as well. As soon as this webinar is uploaded, there will be a nutrition and training video that's also uploaded, just to get your head around some of the basics. If you've seen it and you've worked with us for a long time and you know what you're doing with that, this webinar is most important. If not, if you've not really paid attention to the education side before, they are going to frame this webinar for you. So you'll need to watch those 2 after watching this as well, so that you can get your head around what we're actually talking about today. After energy systems, we're going to look at strength training, because we've had a lot of questions on what you should be doing, what you should be monitoring. How do I know if I'm making progress, especially when you're not in the gym and you haven't got an extra plate that you can put onto a barbell to see if you're doing better. So we'll talk about what progress actually is and what your training needs to do week on week to allow you to be moving forward and to be confident that you are getting stronger, getting fitter.
Systems, we're going to look at strength training.
Sorry.
Because we've had a lot of questions on what you should
Feedback.
do.
Cool.
It's not playing back, it's the
I
Facebook.
don't mind listening to myself, just not 5 seconds after.
That's the Facebook delay.
Conditioning work. So guys, the exact same for conditioning. Basically, what are we looking at? What's important? What are we trying to achieve in those sessions? Because they are fundamentally different. If you're trying to look at your strength training session, basically, if you're blending the two together and there's no real, this is targeting my conditioning, this is targeting my strength, then you're going to sort of get stuck in no man's land and you'll make a bit of progress initially, but certainly not go far. As soon as we've put a frame on all of it and we've got this background, we'll look at changes in body composition. So what we're going to be talking about is what actually causes you to change your body composition, what causes you to get in shape, because that is realistically for 90% of you, probably the main thing. And what we might realize today is that a lot of the things that you're doing, thinking that it's taking you to get in shape, are probably not. They're probably extras. They're probably not necessary. You know, it might be something that you want to do, but it might not be moving you towards this end goal.
It's just, let me jump in again. I will be quick because we know that we want to be finished in like 25 minutes. I'll be literally 2 seconds. But just like with training, each type of just like each type of physical response for training. So, you know, strength training versus cardio, etc. We can look at training to give us the same physical response from a body fat perspective or from a fitness perspective. You know, you could be doing one type of cardio for more fat loss. You could be doing one type of cardio for more fitness. And I hope that's sort of what Josh is saying there in what you can be doing.
100%. And then, guys, we're just going to look at something that I know a lot of you have struggled with this week, which is nutrition routine, and something that I use all the time, certainly when I'm dieting, which is go-to meals, and just making sure that you guys understand that, and it should be something that you can put in, really easy and simple to cover. Some of the questions that we've had come up, and it is only a few, but what plan's best for me? The fundamentals are advanced. I'll cover all of this at the end if it's not covered throughout. Should I use heart rate to monitor strength? I eat healthy, but should I track calories? Would adding yoga and jogging and things like that be too much to the plan? Focusing on strength and muscle building, should I change the plan? I've been dieting for a while, but hit a plateau. Do I need to drop my calories further? I'm eating more, weight's going up. Should I be worried? And I'm eating about the same, but by adding a bit more cardio, I've lost, say, 8 pounds in a week. Should I be worried? Guys, we will control this throughout.
Yeah, and we're going to touch on the main questions, the main points that some of you have as worries and concerns. Some of you are very worried at the minute about losing the muscle that you've gained in the gym. That's like been one of the biggest things off the review sheets, of the check-in forms, is how do I not lose muscle during this period? And other people have been like, I keep walking past the fridge and eating, and other people are telling us about the kids and why it's so much more difficult, things like that. Well, again, these are the type of questions that once you understand a little bit of the science behind it, which is what we're going to teach you tonight, then it's really easy for you to see and take some pressure and stress off yourself and actually focus, double down on the things that are going to make the impact and make the difference on your diet, on your body fat, on your muscle mass. A lot of questions relating to diet actually relate to your training. So, you know, how do I not lose muscle? You follow the plan, you do what we tell you. And once you've got an understanding of how physically that will work, then you can hopefully start to see why some of the complexities in the program have been put in for them reasons, to help us make sure that we're giving you that overload, that stress on your muscles, to allow you to maintain it, to allow you to drop fat where we want you to as well. So I know that this is a little bit of a learning curve. And like I said, I do expect that when we do these webinars for questions to arise, because this is your classroom. This is a lecture in some respects. We're trying to educate you on this, but we do also want discussion as well. So if any questions come up, either write them down or drop them into the chat box, and we'll try and address them at the end. Or if there's anything that you really want us to answer, there must be something going through everyone's mind individually tonight that they really want us to answer about nutrition. Maybe you're a little bit scared to ask it, but this is a perfect opportunity to do it. Any questions that come in, by the way, I can't see other people's questions. And what I'll do is I'll promise you that I will not answer anyone's question with the name attached. Just that's fair, because I don't think you can see other people's questions anyway. I will say that Trevor just called me bold though, Josh.
Who did?
Trevor. It's because I've got longer hair. I mean, I've been receding since I was 4.
Yeah. It must be the lights. Right, guys. So,
because we're back for Boris.
Either way, again, I know.
Oh, he's froze there. I hope he's not completely froze. I hope he's going to be back in a sec. Is he? Hello? I hope it's Josh that's frozen. No. Oh, you froze there for a sec, Josh.
I'm back though.
You are back. Good.
There we go. Cool. So, guys, progress. What does it look like to you? Reason that I put this in is that 9 times out of 10, when someone comes in to start working with us, they are not at a point where I'd say they are good to do a body transformation. And I think that this is really important because this constantly cycles through. So it's not because you've been working with us for a while that you should be at that point, because it depends where you're up to with your training. It depends what you've been prioritizing recently. So just because we're in this situation, what I don't want it to do is basically say, all right, well, everybody can achieve this, because there may be some underlying things that we need to look at. But what are the main metrics that you're looking at? Is it weight loss? Is it muscle gain, strength? Do you want to lean up? Do you want to sleep better? Do you want to, improve your blood pressure, your resting heart rate, general health markers? Do you want to improve your digestion? All of these are things that we can do, but they all take a slightly different approach. 9 times out of 10, we'll be doing multiple different things together. And again, that's where it gets a little bit complex and certainly gets a little bit more individual. But it's really important to understand that making progress isn't just about one of these metrics. We want to look at a couple of areas.
Sorry, and I know I keep jumping in.
Fine, just don't rush me at the end now.
Yeah, no, that's what he's going to say. He's going to be like, well, you've been talking it way through. Let's just look at this, that your initial goal might be fat loss. You might want to lose fat over 8 weeks. Yeah. You might say to me and Josh, I want to lose fat over 8 weeks. But the question in the webinar last week was, what has to happen on a daily basis for you to achieve that? What do you need to do every day to achieve that? Well, if last week your diet was on what I call the kick wagon, if your diet was on that and you was all over and there was stress and there was no control and you was not structuring, not tracking calories, all that has to happen first. Don't worry about losing weight on week 1 and week 2. Worry about finding a new way to cope with the current situation. Find a new way to reduce your stress level by starting to watch what you eat, starting to track your calories and see where you're at. On the other hand, if you did that last week and you've been catching up and you've been quite good with your diet and you're ready to go into this and you're ready to set some weight loss goals or body fat goals, that's really what we've got to do. We've got to think about your main goal over the next 8 weeks, and then we've got to start to split it up into what do I want to achieve this week? What do I want to achieve by next month? What do I want to achieve in 8 weeks? What do I want to do today? Do you know what I mean? I hope that sort of is pretty clear. So, plan your goal for 8 weeks. Sure, I want to get my body fat down a little bit, but how does your this week look compared to your last week? And what do you need to do every day this week to make sure that you're in control and you are ready to go with this? That's important.
100%. Yeah. So, guys, just drop in the comments, out of this, which ones are important to you? Because usually if we're looking for weight loss, to be honest, most people are then generally wanting to look to improve the digestion, improve the blood pressure, resting heart rate, help that get to sort of normal metrics, maybe even improve sleep. Muscle gain, often it's sort of looking to build muscle and strength, and you certainly don't want to be sacrificing any of the other areas for the sake of that. So again, drop your important ones in the comments. I've seen that, obviously, like injury and pain-free.
Yeah, and just think about that question there.
We talk about that when it gets to the strength training, because it's really important. That's actually covered in strength. That's what strength training should be for, before anything else. you know, I always certainly, and I'm sure that Jamie takes the same approach, we look at people from a health point of view first. It's always the sort of way that I want everybody sort of interacting with FX, is that before anything else, you need to be healthy, you need to be feeling good. I know that there's certain times where you put that a little bit sort of to one side, but 99% of the time, being healthy, feeling better, they're the key things that you should be looking after before doing anything else. And obviously, injuries, pain absolutely falls within that. Again, any questions I'll get to?
Oh, sorry, I won't say I said a name. So someone has just placed the question, tracking calories. If your goal is not fat loss but strength, should you be doing it? If you're busier than you're struggling to remember to track everything in advance or have time, well, we'll get into that. I think I'll
go on to that directly as we get towards the back end. I will, like I said, I'll look back over these questions as we get to the end. Yeah. Guys, where are you right now? If you're here with Good to Transform, and what that means is that if you're eating a good and normal amount of calories, you've got basically a healthy metabolism. So when you diet, you lose weight. When you try and eat more, you steadily gain weight but don't gain much body fat. And when you're not really worrying about it, you're eating enough food and pretty much self-regulating, maintaining weight all right. You're sleeping okay, whatever that means for you. Your digestion's good. You've got regular days off. You're not feeling like you need to train every day to catch up on calories. You're exercising often, but again, it's not sort of the number one for you. It's not something that you have to do. It's something that you're choosing to do. And your health markers are all normal. If you're there, you're probably at a point where we can say, yeah, whatever you want to achieve in the coming weeks, that we can go straight in, and we don't really need to look at much else. Now, if you're here, if you're not eating much and you've no change in weight, or if you're training a hell of a lot and you've no change in body weight, or you're not sleeping well, or your digestion's not good, or you're always injured, or you're not making progress fitness-wise despite whatever training you seem to try, you know, whether you're yo-yo dieting or yo-yo training in terms of you going into the gym, you're going through the same cycle of really intense and then coming out and completely falling off. Whatever's going on in that range, you can absolutely still be moving towards your goal over the coming weeks. You can still absolutely make massive progress from home, and it actually might be a good thing to get you out of the sort of routine that you might have been in by not training at a gym and having to be forced into doing something different. But you can still absolutely hit your goal. You just can't do it at the expense of sorting these out, because these have to be number one. If you want to make progress, not just 8 weeks, but long term,
let me just jump on this. Dirk's, I know. I think I obviously feel Dirk's might be injured at the minute, but the idea of fitness and training. Describe what training is, because I've been through knee reconstructions with footballers and they've trained the day after. I've been through open chest surgery with clients who've trained the day after. I think it depends how you define training. If training to you is working at 100% on a bench press or pushing weight or whatever, then fine. But sometimes it might mean that you are just in a different phase. I had a conversation with a client this morning, actually, one that Josh was talking to, who's, you know, really struggling with an injury at the minute. And she sees it as time off. She's like, you know, she's walking past the fridge and she's just said, I've lost all motivation. I've lost everything, because this is my, you know, I need to rest. I need to relax, and I need to not do training, because I've been told that I shouldn't train because I can't train with my injury. Well, flip that on its head and think, it's not a phase where you don't train. It's a phase where you're recovering from injury, or you're rehabbing, or you're doing, it's still a training phase. It's still something that is equally as important that you monitor your nutrition, your diet, and you balance that in line with the amount of calories that you're either putting out or the amount of training that you're doing. Yes, it might mean that you need to reduce your calories during the day if you're not doing your weight sessions. However, if there was ever a time to be focusing on nutrition and health and sleep and stress levels, it would be at the time of an injury. You know, like I said, I've sat with people with stitches coming out of the knees, that we have had machines tied up to them, training them at the minute. We've had other things that they've had to do, you know, rehabilitation wise. That becomes their type of training. These guys, when they have got a goal, and it's easy for me to revert this to athletes, and I know not everyone's an athlete, but when you've got a clear goal that you really want to achieve, when you're very clear on what your motivation is, why you want to do something, and why it's so important to you, like webinar week 1 and webinar week 2 we're discussing, Once you've got that very clear picture, as hard and as difficult it is during injuries, as soon as we can get in our heads that this is just a different phase that needs more work, more adjustments, more new thinking than I normally give it, it becomes you become that little bit more positive, because instead of having the negative, I cannot do this at the minute because I'm injured, or I'm walking past my fridge, or I can't diet at the minute because I got the kids here. As soon as we start to sort of bosh some of them thoughts away and say, yes, I have a different phase, I've got to adapt things. And I think that's for everyone at the minute. You know, everyone has had their schedule, their diary, their daily routine flipped on its head. Some people are good and can sort of readjust quite quickly, can just see progress, goals, everything's still the same. Where I want to be, the person I want to be, who I want to be is still the same. But the route to get there must change and must be different. And nutrition is one of the best ways we can actually make sure that we're still getting those results that we're admiring and that we want and that we're really passionate about, whilst not training in the gym, or not training as hard, or swapping our training, or training harder, or doing the whole workout plan. You know, this is just a different phase. It is not a phase where we could be feeling like, you know, I just want to give up on everything, because that's not what people want. People want to be in great shape all the year, want to be in great shape all the year. They want to be healthy, they want to be fit, and that will continue. Your plan of attack needs to change, not necessarily your goal.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I think that it's really important with that type of thing, or with anything, to be honest. You know, people often, we always see this, and whether it's an injury that you're struggling with, whether it's that you're going through changes in routine, whether it's that we're all at home at the minute trying to deal with changes and not getting to the gym, and changes with our daily routines and things like that. What we have to look is that this is all part of the journey. These are all steps on the way. It's not something that's getting in the way to you getting to your goal. It's just something else that we need to navigate. And this is why we've got the systems in place, is that, you know, they are things that do come up. They are things that need navigating. And if you try to ignore them and try to smash through without making any adjustments, that's when we're going to really struggle. Again, I'll get to some of the nutrition questions.
I think covering stress, like, you know, that's next week's webinar in detail, isn't it, Josh? And I think that
either next week or the following week.
There's nobody at the minute that I've spoke to, and there wasn't, and this is why we're covering this week more than anything, is that everybody at the minute feels like diet's got a little bit out of control. So we're pulling it right back, resetting targets, getting back to the important.
This today, I think that this might be a big factor in terms of why your diets have got out of control as well, for everyone. Because when you do start to look at it from a stress energy systems point of view, stress compounds this. But we'll talk about training today, and the type of training for most of you has become far more glycogen dependent, and it's going to mean that your body's needing a lot more carbohydrate type food if you're not used to doing that sort of training. So again, guys, moving on from that, let's get into these basics of energy systems. I'm going to really oversimplify it, really butcher it. There is a little bit more detail, which is still massively oversimplified, on a video that I'll attach to the members area, the 8-week challenge area, with this webinar. But really simple is that low intensity and rest is sort of your fat burning type energy systems. It's your aerobic zone. It's the stuff where your breathing's not overly elevated. Yes, it might increase, but you can still hold conversations and things. It's more your walking pace, or what I'm using now to sort of run through this webinar, what Jamie's using, what you're using watching this. It's predominantly the aerobic system. It should be predominantly fat burning. Now, that might not necessarily be the case because, well, there's a lot of reasons to it. Again, I won't go into it. But for some of you, you're going to be not as well adapted in that system as what you could be, which means that one of your training goals could be that. For the mid-ground energy system, moderate to high intensities, that is carb burning. So still using some fats, still some of everything, because these energy systems all work at one time. But in reality, you're looking to use carbs in that. So when you're doing your HIIT training, when you're going for a run, when you're doing any of this higher intensity stuff, yes, strength training as well, that's going to use carbs. Now, the reason that I say strength training in that manner is that dependent on what type of strength training you're doing, it might be burning loads of calories, or it might be more nervous system dominant. So you might not end up using that much. It might be quite easy to refuel. Whereas if you race a 10K or you do a 40-minute HIIT session, you're going to be burning through a hell of a lot of carbs, and your body's going to notice that, and it's going to make physical changes for you. And then very high intensity stuff. This is really short bursts. This isn't what you guys probably think of as high intensity, because this might be a 5 or 10 second effort with a couple of minutes to rest. This is something that we use all the time training athletes, but far less when we train in sort of most people that are wanting to get in shape and wanting to get healthy. But that's your creatine, that's your top end energy system. Now, when we start to relate that to macros, we know that we always talk about protein. And let's look at protein as a basic macro. Again, this is covered in miles more detail, but still very basic in the other video. But that's for your rebuilding, recovering, your structure of your body and things like that. That's what macronutrient, that's why that's essential. Recover from the training, build muscle, repair your muscles and so on. When it comes to carbs, brain fuel, absolutely. It's the predominant fuel that your brain runs off. And your body can create it as well. So we won't go into that, but it can do. But it's your fuel for high intensity exercise. So when people are on a low carb diet and then go into the high intensity training, well, something's got to give. So either your body is going to be trying to create carbohydrates to be using, because it's always going to fuel your brain, and it's got to fuel this intensity, or your exercise intensity isn't quite enough. So it's not low enough intensity to be the fat burning zone. It's trying to use carbs, it's using carbs, but it's building up all these waste products, and it's just becoming difficult. What that's going to do, make you crave carbs a hell of a lot more, impact your recovery, probably reduce your sleep. And that approach, if you're not fueling it right, yes, you can lose a little bit of body fat initially, but long term, that's going to be a massive issue for people. And then obviously fats. This is a system that most people are relatively poor with, in terms of if lowish and moderate-ish intensity exercise means that your heart rate's shooting up and you're working really hard and you're burning your muscles straight away because you just don't do any of that low intensity stuff. That's going to be an issue as well, because you're just not adapting your body to fuel off fat. Really simple is that if you're not doing anything in that low intensity zone over time, we are just ramping everything up. If fat loss is your main goal, guys, there's going to be an issue there. And certainly from health markers, because the energy system that you're in 90% of the time at least is this low intensity fat burning zone. We want to make sure that that is treated, that's being looked after, that's adapting properly. Jay, anything to add to that?
No, man.
Cool. So guys, types of training. You know, we talk about cardio versus building muscle versus fat loss versus speed training versus loads of different types. We're going to focus on cardio and strength for today. What we mean by strength training, realistically, we're trying to either build strength, build muscle mass, improve function, and reduce injuries. One of those four is pretty much going to cover all strength training sessions, even if it's a body weight session. So what we've found recently is that people are seeing their press ups and squats and them sort of movements. They're more dynamic and more cardio based things because they're being done with strength exercises like press ups and squats. They're being seen as a strength session, but that's really just cardio. You know, that won't have much of an impact in building strength, building muscle mass, improving function, or reducing injuries. It'll actually potentially have the opposite effect if you're not balancing it properly. So mega important that we realize that when we're doing a strength training session, even if it's just using body weight, it's focused around this, which means that the rep scheme should be something strength focused, the sets should be appropriate, the recovery time should be appropriate, and the movement quality certainly needs to be something that we consider as well. When we look at cardio, we do that for different reasons. It's a different thing. Training is not training. So cardio, we're looking at generally improving health markers, improving fitness and performance. But again, really important to consider what it is that's featuring in your program, what it is that you're spending your time doing. If you're trying to build muscle, you're trying to build strength, and that's your number one priority, don't be doing, and all your health markers are where they should be, don't be doing as much cardio as strength training, because if you are, it's going to be really eating into your recovery. If you are doing that, stick to the lower intensity cardio. Let's get your body good at burning fats, and let's save the high intensity stuff for your strength sessions, allow you to build strength, allow you to get stronger. So again, just wanting to cover that because I know that it's something that
There's
people massively
a lot of
miss.
questions, and there's a lot of people worried about you know, I don't want to lose muscle, and they're talking to us like just to let everyone know, you don't lose muscle so quickly. Even if you've not trained for the last 2 weeks, you won't just be losing muscle unless you're in a massive deficit. And
you do lose muscle really quick when you are in that state of not eating much, a lot of training that is glycogen dependent, because your body is, survival mode first all the time. So your body's saying, what can I do to get through this training session? Forget where I'm at by tomorrow. What can I do now to be in a good situation? And a lot of the time, if you're not fueling your body right, you're not recovering right, and we talk about this in terms of using exercise for stress management, it can be great, but it also, we have to be aware of the issues. We can strip through muscle mass extremely quickly if we're not considering this. But Jay, you're absolutely right.
And just let me make a point on that before. I know some people might be thinking, oh God, I got to stop running. No, you don't have to stop. Like I said last week, I said some F-bombs. What I was saying is, if you are not used to a lot of running and a high amount of cardio, and then all of a sudden you go to do this is a brand new stress on your body. For someone that's a runner that runs loads anyway, and is and does loads and loads of cardio, their body is adapted differently to somebody that's introducing this as extra and new and stuff like that. So there is individual differences on everything that we're talking about. Think about stripping it back to what you normally do when you're weak, and then look at what now you are giving yourself as extra as well. I think that's important. So yeah. No, we're not saying that it's not a good time to get into running at all. It's not a good time to get into running. What we're saying is that you've got to have considerations for calories in doing so, and energy systems, and carbs and fats and everything else. Now, Josh, let me just say something quick. I know that a lot of the clients in here are business owners and stuff as well, and I know that you wanted to clap for Boris. I think I did. I think that this isn't going to be finished within the next minute. I've got a screen in front of me that I could just share with you if you want. If people just wanted to take a 2-minute break, Josh, what do you think?
I think we take a bit of a. I think we just have a couple of minutes, guys, and come back at about 4 minutes past.
Well, I've put 2 minutes past. I put 2-minute clap. I think it's just 1 minute, so I just.
All right. Okay.
So it's asked me to the other screen share. Do you want to continue? Let me just check that I press continue and not do this. So guys, we're just going to allow people to go and get a drink, get a brew, clap for Boris if that's what you want to go and do. But we are going to be doing this now, and I will just upload this so that everybody can see.